Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something pretty specific, a date, September 17th, 2025.
Right. And not just the date itself, but this idea that there might be a kind of, well, theological blueprint for what could happen then.
Exactly. We're going to explore how 7 specific biblical verses found using a particular numerical system could form a coherent narrative, a template almost.
And it's based on quite distinct sources. We're talking the Charles Thomson Bible from 1808, that's from the Greek Septuagint.
Okay, an older one.
And Robert Young's literal translation, 1862, from the Hebrew Masoretic Text. Very different textual traditions.
And the interpretation, that comes from Dr. Ernest L. Martin's earlier work.
Yes, specifically his prophetic teachings from before 1998. And importantly, this analysis sets aside his theories on the precise location of the Jerusalem temple. That's a whole other discussion.
Got it. So the focus here is really on trying to see if there's, non-random content in these selected verses. Can they actually give us a lens for looking at potential world events, global, U.S., even down to Jerusalem?
That's the core mission of this deep dive, to see how these verses, through Martin's specific framework, might align with hypothetical events on that future date.
Okay, so if we're talking about a framework, what's the big idea, the main theme running through this?
Well, the central pattern, the one that really stands out, is this idea of judgment preceding restoration. It's sort of encapsulated in Luke 24:7.
Remind us.
The Son of Man must be delivered and be crucified, and on the third day rise again. The analysis presents this not just as history, but as a kind of divine formula.
A formula. Interesting. So judgment isn't just punishment.
Not in this view. This connects to Dr. Martin's concept of apokatastasis, or universal reconciliation. Think of divine judgment as corrective, like surgery, painful maybe, but ultimately aiming for healing and restoration for everything.
Universal restoration, that's a significant concept. How does that play out in the scriptures used here? You mentioned an archetype.
Right, the Dan archetype, drawing from Numbers 2.26 and other places, the tribe of Dan's story. It's fascinating. They go from apostasy, being symbolically left out of some key lists,
Excluded, yeah.
But then the interpretation suggests they are ultimately restored. It serves as a scriptural example, a kind of case study for this very idea. Even the excluded aren't outside the ultimate plan of reconciliation. It's about corrective judgment leading back.
Okay, so we have this framework. Corrective judgment, ultimate restoration, exemplified by Dan. Let's apply it now. September 17th, 2025. What kind of speculative headlines might fit this pattern?
All right. Looking globally, you could imagine, hypothetically, news breaking about an emergency world summit, maybe announcing a whole new economic and security framework. Think something on the scale of Bretton Woods, perhaps.
Spurred by what, though?
Escalating instability, maybe tensions involving Israel, EU pressures, US-UK shifts, Federal Reserve moves, China trade talks, a confluence of crises forcing a change. This would be the crucifixion part, the painful end of old systems.
A global reset born from crisis. Okay. And nationally, for the U.S.
Here, you might imagine something like reports of a major national corruption scandal finally breaking, something implicating really high-level figures, maybe connected to ongoing things like investigations around Jeffrey Epstein, perhaps amplified by political friction or even violence.
So kind of national chastisement, a purification almost.
That's how it might fit the framework. A necessary, though deeply uncomfortable reckoning.
And then Jerusalem, the epicenter in many ways for these texts.
Exactly. Here, the speculative alignments get quite detailed. First, maybe news of the Israeli governing coalition collapsing, perhaps over infighting related to the Gaza situation, hostages, leading to calls for a national referendum, a questioning of Israel's adherence to its covenant, like in 2 Chronicles 6.16.
A moment of national crisis and reflection.
But then, something unexpected. Imagine a substantive peace initiative, not from the usual players, but maybe from a previously hardline Palestinian faction, offering a real new path.
Wow, that would be a shift.
It would align dramatically with that Dan archetype, the excluded party initiating restoration. And maybe alongside this, an announcement. Plans for a new significant spiritual site in Jerusalem. Interfaith prayer. Offering holy things, as Deuteronomy 12.26 puts it, but maybe located in a neutral, historically significant area, easing tensions.
So, bringing it all together, we've explored this unique method of verse selection interpreted through Martin's framework, suggesting a kind of blueprint.
Highlighting that cycle. Judgment, correction, leading ultimately towards restoration. Even mapping onto these Quite specific, though, hypothetical events for September 17th, 2025.
Global upheaval leading to a new structure, national reckoning with corruption, and in Jerusalem, political crisis potentially broken by an unexpected peace move and a new shared space.
That's the picture painted by this particular analysis.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, our listener. Could it be that the instability we see, the crises, the national arguments, could they possibly be viewed not just as chaos, but as, well, difficult but necessary steps? Integral stages in a much larger, maybe even purposeful, divine plan aimed at universal healing and reconciliation.
It definitely raises a profound question about finding meaning, perhaps, even within the turmoil. Something to consider.